The Money in the Bank contract is essentially WWE's version of a golden ticket. If you are given the Money in the Bank contract, you are more or less guaranteed to become world champion within the next year. Obviously, there's been a few exceptions in the past, but on the women's side, there is a 100% cash-in success rate. On the men's side, there's only been a few unsuccessful cash-ins. So, with Money in the Bank just over a week away, let's talk about who should win both the men's and the women's Money in the Bank contracts. We'll start with the women. Now, at the moment, there's still one spot in the match left open. That will be decided between Dakota Kai, Ivy Nile, and Zoe Stark. Now, personally, I don't think any of these three women are going to win the contract. I would like to see Dakota Kai probably go into the match. I think she deserves a singles push. I'm a big fan of Dakota Kai. But I don't think she's going to win the match. The rest of the participants in the match are Io Sky, Chelsea Green, Lyra Valkyria, Tiffany Stratton, and Naomi. So let's sort of work through each person one by one. Io Sky, of course, a former Money in the Bank holder. She's been on a good run recently. She's had a really good sort of year, obviously winning the world title last year and then carrying it forward into WrestleMania where she lost it. So, you know, we've seen back-to-back Money in the Bank winners before, CM Punk, and we've seen multi-time Money in the Bank holders. But for me, I don't think Io Sky is going to be the one to win it this year. Lyra Valkyria as well, I'm not completely sure it's her moment at this point. I think she's had a good start to her life on the main roster, but for the moment in time, I think we'll let her build up a bit more, build her character a bit more. Maybe in a year's time, a couple years' time, it will be her moment. Naomi, at the moment, she's in this sort of friendship with Bayley. She's been the one sort of very defensive of Bayley since her breakaway from Damage Control. So there would be an obvious storyline involved in that if she was to win the Money in the Bank contract. Obviously the friends falling out over sort of protection of Bayley being protective of her title and wary that Naomi could cash in. But I don't think Naomi's going to win it either, which leaves the two people I think it is between being Tiffany Stratton and Chelsea Green. Now, I would be 100% completely okay with either of these women winning the match. I don't really have a preference either way. Who do I think has more chance of winning it? I believe Tiffany Stratton probably has more chance of winning it. I think she's probably got more of a future as a legitimate singles wrestler. She's an unbelievable athlete, former Olympian, I believe. Sort of had a really strong push and then she sort of simmered down a bit over the last month or so. But I think 1,000,000% she is a future world champion. It's just a matter of time, really. And I think the Money in the Bank contract could be a really good prop as a way of getting her there. Again, as I said, I would not mind if Chelsea Green was the one to win it. I absolutely love Chelsea Green. I think she's one of the best characters in the women's division. But it's difficult because I would love her to win it. I really would. I think she'd be a great Money in the Bank holder. And I always feel like the Money in the Bank contract should be held by a heel. Obviously not all of the time because, you know, then it would become a bit too predictable. Of course, Stratton is a heel as well, so this works for both of them. But I always just feel that the Money in the Bank contract is better used as a heel prop because ultimately it's sort of a cowardly way to win a title. You sort of take advantage of a vulnerable champion. Of course, it can be used for a face. It can be effective when used as a face. But either way, I think Tiffany Stratton will have the best chance of winning. I think she probably should win. I would say she's my favourite going in, regardless of my own personal feelings. I think she has the best chance of winning. But again, I would happily see Chelsea Green win the contract as well. But for me, my person who I think should, not my official prediction, I'll be doing a predictions video next week, but who I think should win the contract in the women's Money in the Bank will be Tiffany Stratton. Now, of course, there is a men's Money in the Bank match as well, and the final entrant in that match is yet to be determined. That will be decided on Raw next week between Drew McIntyre, Ilya Dragunov and Sheamus. Now, first of all, the fact that we are getting that triple threat match on free TV is insane. That could genuinely be, like, with no exaggeration, one of the best matches of the year in the WWE. Those are three just great wrestlers who I'm sure will put on, to quote Sheamus, an absolute banger. Who's going to win that match and put themselves into the ladder match? The only thing, obviously, Drew McIntyre is involved in a sort of storyline with CM Punk at the moment, but he obviously took Punk out just over a week ago, I think on SmackDown, just before the one just gone. So I think it would be too early for Punk to come back after what was, seen as such a brutal attack. So I think Drew has a very clear path into the match. I'd like to see Dragunov in the match as well. I'd like to see Sheamus in the match. I like Sheamus, but I think it's more between Drew and Ilya for the spot in the match here. And I think it will go to Drew, personally. I'll be happy if it goes to Ilya as well. He's a phenomenal wrestler, but I think Drew being in the match gives it a legitimate contender that I think otherwise it could be a bit too predictable, really. But yeah, I'll be saying Drew's going to go into the match, which will then leave the match being contested between Drew McIntyre, Jey Uso, Carmelo Hayes, Andrade, Chad Gable, and LA Knight. Yeah. So out of those people, let's go through them as we did for the women. First of all, let's start with the person who I 100% do not think will win the match, and that is LA Knight. Now, I would love LA Knight to win the Money in the Bank. I think he deserves to be in the world title scene. He's been incredible. He's had probably the best sort of rookie year on the main roster, if not best ever, but of the sort of last couple of years, he's had an unbelievable sort of first proper year on the main roster. But the obvious elephant in the room regarding LA Knight is Logan Paul. SummerSlam is just around the corner, so I think if I was to bet loads of money on this match, it would be on that Logan Paul will cost LA Knight the match, cost him the Money in the Bank contract, therefore setting up a United States Championship match at SummerSlam where potentially LA Knight can finally get his hands on singles gold. But that's a video for another day. Chad Gable, I again would be delighted if Chad Gable won the Money in the Bank. I think he's got absolutely everything, but I still think his future, I was going to say his future lies in the Intercontinental Championship scene, but I'm strongly of the belief that I think Bron Breakker's going to win the Intercontinental Championship at Money in the Bank, potentially. I'm not too sure about that. That's just a thought that's come into my head. But I won't be surprised if Chad Gable wins it, because if Gunther was to win the World Heavyweight Championship, then Chad Gable cashing in on Gunther and finally, after so many tries, getting that win over him, even if it's, through the contract, that could be a nice storyline to sort of cap off the climb of Chad Gable through the singles ranks. But I don't think they're going to give it to him. Andrade, I just don't see winning the contract, to be honest. I don't think WWE see him as world champion material, which is a shame because he's a unbelievable wrestler, but I just don't see, especially with him being on SmackDown, I just don't see them pushing him to the world title picture. Carmelo Hayes is probably a contender, but again, I don't think his time on the main roster has set the world on fire as I thought it might do after his call up from NXT. Obviously, on his very first night, he went into the main event with Cody Rhodes, which sort of maybe set the bar too high for what I expected from him. Since then, I think he's sort of simmered down a bit. So for now, I don't think Carmelo Hayes is going to win Money in the Bank, but I do think he is probably in the higher percentage of likelihood to win the match, which leaves Jey Uso and Drew McIntyre, who are my two favourites to win the match. I think Drew winning makes a lot of sense. He's been cashed in on, should I say, twice in the last few years. So to then let him have that sort of retribution makes a lot of sense to me. I think that's a good story that they could tell. And Jey Uso obviously has just been rising and rising and rising as a single superstar. He's the cover star of Money in the Bank this year, which I think may be a sign that he's not winning. I feel like that could make it too obvious, but maybe that's me reading too much into things. So yeah, Jey Uso obviously has had a phenomenal singles run since breaking away from the bloodline. He had the underwhelming match with his brother at WrestleMania, but then, you know, the reactions he's been getting are off the charts. His merch sales, I've been reading, are like, he's pretty much in the top 3 of merch sales more or less every week, even if he's not on the show, which is crazy when you consider, you know, the people being featured on weekly television. So I do 100% see a world where Jey Uso wins the Money in the Bank contract, but I don't think he will. I personally think Drew McIntyre is my pick to win the Money in the Bank contract, or potentially Carmelo Hayes or Jey Uso. The addition of Drew McIntyre, should he win that triple threat, I think makes the match a lot more unpredictable. So I do hope he wins that triple threat, because I think, as I say, it adds that element of unpredictability, a proper main event talent being in the match. But yeah, my person who I think should win, I'm going to say Drew McIntyre, but my proper official predictions will be my video next week at some point, probably towards the later part of the week, just to make sure we've got all the matches announced. But yeah, I think we've got 2 really unpredictable Money in the Bank ladder matches this year. I think there's, at the bare minimum, 2 people who could legitimately win it, if not 3 or 4 actually have a legitimate chance. Maybe a bit, I was going to say maybe less so in the women's match, but looking at the names, Io Sky I could see winning, Chelsea Green, Lyra Valkyria's being pushed quite well, so I think she could, and Tiffany Stratton I think all have a chance. Jey Uso, Carmelo Hayes, and Drew McIntyre, if he does go in it, I think all have a good chance. So 2 really unpredictable matches. I'm very excited. As I say, my official predictions will be in a video next week on this YouTube channel, so please subscribe if you don't want to miss that and all my future weekly wrestling content. Please like the video if you enjoyed, go watch some of my other videos, and yeah, thanks for watching.